Hello world, and welcome back to another episode of Today with me, Linden Tibbets, IFTTT Founder and CEO. Jumping right in with today's hot topic, I'd like to talk about the ongoing feud between Hey, the hot new email service from 37 Signals, and Apple. It all started when Jason Fried from 37 Signals announced on Twitter that Apple was blocking any new updates to the Hey iOS app unless they complied with the App Store requirement that any app with paid features offer those same features in their iOS app and giving Apple that 30% cut of all revenue. This all comes at an unfortunate time for both companies. 37 Signals' new app Hey has come roaring out of the gates to incredibly positive reception, and Apple's biggest developer conference of the year, WWDC, is just days away. Plenty has been said about both sides of this battle. John Gruber shed light on just how muddled Apple's distinctions between business and consumer apps is relative to their rules about in-app purchases, and Walt Mossberg pointed out that while a 30% cut is steep, and nearly every developer would agree, it's a far cry from the early days of mobile app distribution when the carriers themselves took a cut of 60 to 70% or more. Now, I do feel that 30% is steep, but I don't intend to wade into this argument by taking either side. Instead, I'd like to talk about who ultimately suffers the most here: the end users. It's the people who actually buy their iPhones and sign up for cool new services like Hey. The current battle between Hey and Apple is just another loss for the end user and their desire for, I would argue, and their right to, compatibility. This struggle for digital compatibility is at the very heart of what IFTTT's mission is: to help everything work better together. Collectively, as an industry, when presented with the option to either embrace compatibility or lock an ecosystem down to grow a business, we've almost always chosen growth at the expense of the end user's ability to pick and choose best-of-breed applications. To illustrate just how ridiculous this pattern of incompatibility is to new IFTTers, I've often used an example from the physical world in two well-known brands. So imagine purchasing a brand new pair of Nike shoes, and the very first time you laced them up alongside your favorite pair of jeans from Levi's, you learned that one of these great brands was going to stop you from wearing them together because the other brand wasn't complying with their ecosystem guidelines. You would be fucking furious. We wouldn't stand for it in our physical stuff, but this is exactly what happens when our brands go digital. Side note, please excuse my hideously ugly Nikes. In my defense, they were on a big sale. One of the nice side effects of compatibility is the end user's freedom to express their poor taste. Now, there are many valid reasons others might point to in justification for our general lack of digital compatibility. You can talk about quality, curation, security, and there's a need to draw a line somewhere. And there's always a need sometimes to take some percentage cut of revenue if you're creating enough value for other businesses. However, when those lines are drawn too vaguely, or when that percentage cut of revenue is just too high, it's ultimately the end users who pay the most. And I hope that Hey and other app developers can convince Apple to change course. Otherwise, I'm afraid it's going to take years before people realize just how much incompatibility is holding us all back. So next, on to users are people too. And for this week's version, I'd like to highlight the wonderfully direct comment from Annoyed Richard, aka @WhatAnnoysMe on Twitter. Richard states, "It never fails. Every time I pick up IFTTT, it's more confusing and unusable. Once again, I can't find where to discover a service's triggers and actions. And how do I just add my own recipe? App rating is 4.7. How? What am I missing?" Well, thank you, Richard, and I agree with you 100%. We have definitely slid backwards in usability and discoverability, especially for those looking to create their own applets from scratch. We've been working really hard to try and make IFTTT more accessible to an even broader audience, but part of those efforts have hidden things that we thought were confusing or too technical for people who were just looking to enable applets that have already been published. We were flat wrong. Instead, we should have taken a more balanced approach that didn't hamper our more experienced users. I promise we will fix this soon and do a better job of listening to folks like you in the future. And also, as part of this same conversation on Twitter, Richard Gunther at home, aka @RichardGunther, who may or may not be the mild-mannered alter ego of Annoyed Richard, said, "Maybe offer a nominally priced premium subscription service to customers that would allow for more complex logic like conditions and multiple actions." Question mark. Well, this is an exciting idea, and one we are now seriously considering after years of thinking IFT wasn't something many end users would value or be willing to pay for. Times have changed, and so has our collective ability to value internet services like IFT, which raises a question for all of you out there tuning in. If IFT did offer a premium subscription of some sort, what would you want to see as part of it? Finally, I'll wrap up with today's take on too much data. As someone who thinks of themselves as doing a pretty good job of keeping my phone in my pocket and just enjoying the moment instead of taking a picture of every damn person or place I come across, I was shocked to learn that over the roughly 15 years that I've been an iPhone customer, I've taken 12,115 photos, including 1,433 screenshots, and to my utter dismay, 222 selfies. For someone who doesn't think they take a whole lot of pictures, that is a ton of data, especially with each new phone getting a bigger and better camera. My first photo was 495 kilobytes, and my last was 3.6 megabytes. Altogether, I've taken over 20 gigabytes worth of photos. That's a lot. All the places these photos live and who has access to them has become increasingly harder to track. I've chosen to save these photos not only on my iPhone, but also in iCloud, with Google Photos, and in Dropbox via IFT. Now, since I pay for all of these services, I have a high degree of trust that the services themselves aren't going to willingly use this data in a way that I wouldn't agree with or wouldn't be in control of. That said, the cognitive overhead in keeping track of shared folders and access permissions is incredibly high. I would imagine many others out there have all but given up on trying to understand just where their photos are going or who can see them. If a photo is worth 1,000 words, then a photo with metadata like location, time, and device is likely worth 2,000. Multiply that by over 12,000 and well, you've got a lot of words. All of which to say, something specific about me is in every one of those photos. In fact, multiple things specific about me. It gets even crazier when you start to think about what software or quote unquote AI can additionally understand about each of your photos. Try this for yourself. Pick a photo of yours at random and list all of the people, places, and things in that photo. Now list all of the brands, all the flora and fauna, all the objects, and the activities that people in that photo are engaged in. Finally, list all the stuff you can infer about the people and things in that photo. Their emotions, their social economic status, their intentions. You've probably already got a long list. Now know that software can already create that exact same list, and likely an even longer one. Pretty scary, huh? Even scarier, or perhaps not, depending on your prior criminal record, given the dramatic increase in our ability to create believable deepfakes, like this still from a video of Bill Hader as Arnold Schwarzenegger. Who is to say that any photo is really yours, or if any photo of you is really you? More broadly, when will we all stop thinking of photos as a credible representation of reality? So, would hate to end this session with our tinfoil hats still on. For those wondering what my last photo was, well, here's me and my amazing daughter Lennox, after she just went to town on an avocado for lunch. I promise that's really her and that's really me. You believe me, right? That's all we've got today, folks. Thank you for tuning in, and please let us know how we can keep making these videos even better. See you next time.